Hi guys! Welcome to our podcast, Mental Myths and Mysteries. I'm your host, Felicia, with
Crystal.
And today we're going to be talking about Vincent van Gogh.
Woo, woo. Starry night in this bitch.
Starry night.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, y'all. We know it's not
Christmas, yeah.
But, happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
To you.
To you.
And whatever you celebrate.
And whatever you celebrate. Anyway, we're so freaking excited you're here and you're going to listen to our show, which is Vincent van Gogh. And I'm so happy about it.
What is this you're doing?
I was rapping.
On whose accord?
You didn't like it?
No.
You want me to take it back?
No, don't take it back.
Take it back to the old days. Skip it backwards. Yo, hey.
If Vincent van Gogh had 2 ears and could hear this,
he would cut me off. Oh, that was good.
Oh my God, straight fire.
Straight fire. I'm spitting fire over here, y'all.
Bars.
Anyway, we hope you enjoy the show. Hi guys, welcome to our podcast, Mental Myths and Mysteries. It's alright, it's okay, but you should listen anyway. Hi guys. For the holidays, Triple M is showcasing local artists from around the world, and you can check out our social media page to see art this week from Dave Spear. You can find Dave on Insta at Dave Spear Art. That's Dave, Speer Art. Or shop his website at daveofthebooty.com. Support small business and pick up a custom Christmas present or hit him up for a commission. Thanks again, Dave, for being a listener and sharing your art with us. What's up, guys?
Hey, guys.
What's up, guys?
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Oh, my God. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too.
If I had $1 for every delayed response you had, I would have like $5 by the end of today.
Yeah. My responses are never delayed. It just takes my brain a second to process things that are happening around me, you know?
Yeah. So what's going on in your life, Fee? Tell the listeners.
Hi, listeners. I spent the last few days sleeping. It's been good. I cut down a tree on my own. That was pretty cool.
That was dope.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's on her TikTok.
It's on my TikTok at pinkpuma95 if you want to check it out.
Pink Puma. That means she's fast, but also fabulous.
Fast and fabulous.
You want to know what I've been up to?
No.
Avoiding my responsibilities. And you're avoiding the answer to my own question for myself. I appreciate that.
I mean, yeah, Crystal, how's life been go? How's the kids?
You are such a great friend to have.
Aren't I?
You're so supportive.
Very much.
You support all of my dreams.
Yeah, I do. I think I try to. If your dream is laying in bed all day, I'll support you.
I like that dream.
Tuck you in.
Some days. And then other days, I feel like I'm going to crawl out of my skin if I don't accomplish something.
And on those days, too, I'll tuck you back into the bed. Like, enjoy the quiet.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Kind of feels like a restraint. And in psych nursing, that's illegal. All right. And on that note, let's get to this fucking story about Vincent van Gogh.
Vincent van Gogh.
Is that how you're supposed to say it?
Gogh. I thought it was like Vincent van Gogh, but we're like Vincent van Hose.
Why?
Because we're art hoes.
Oh,
Especially
so you're
you.
Vincent van Gogh's host?
You're an art hoe.
I'm an art snob. I refer to myself as an art snob. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. That's art escort.
Because every art I want
is
language over $300 usually. All right. So Vincent van Gogh. Let's do it. Starry Night, my favorite painting of his. Everyone's favorite painting of his. Who are we kidding?
The sunflower ones, or was that Dolly?
That sounds like Dolly stuff. Van Gogh did a lot of portraits of people. Most of what I saw at the Chicago Art Institute were paintings of people. I think the most famous one I saw was one where there was a woman, a grandma sitting in a chair. I don't know. Starry Night is the shit. then he did a lot of self-portraits too,
I
which were like
those.
really weird. All right. So the story I'm going to be reading you today about Vincent van Gogh also comes from biography.com. You know, I feel like biography.com should give us like sponsorship or something because I use their site a lot.
Or should we be sponsoring them? Is it the
Or
other
we
way
should be
around?
sponsoring them. I mean, I don't know. I'm giving proper credit to their website. Vincent van Gogh lived from 1853 to 1890. This article was originally written on April 27th of 2017. Vincent van Gogh was one of the world's greatest artists, with paintings such as Starry Night and Sunflowers. Oh,
Sunflowers was
you know
him.
it. Though he was unknown until after his death, which is very sad. Seems to happen a lot. Who was Vincent van Gogh? I'm so excited to tell this story, by the way.
I'm excited for you.
I'm so excited. Ears. I like ears. Vincent van Gogh was a post-impressionist painter whose work, notable for its beauty, emotion, and color, highly influenced 20th century art. He struggled with mental illness and remained poor and virtually unknown throughout his life.
That seems like a thing that happens to a lot of artists. Not the whole mental illness aspect, but being poor and unknown until you die. And we're like, oh man, this is nice.
He might be like one of the original founders for the term starving art.
Yeah.
It saddens me that he struggled so much. So, Van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853 in Groot Zundert, Netherlands. Did I say that right?
I have no idea.
I like it. Van Gogh's father, Theodorus van Gogh, was an austere country minister. Oh, son of a preacher. And his mother, Anna Cornelia Carbentus, was a moody artist whose love of nature, drawing, and watercolors was transferred to her son. Aw, how sweet. I'm a moody artist. I mean, my art's not that great, but my moodiness is.
Your moodiness is on point.
My moodiness is on point. Van Gogh was born exactly 1 year after his parents' first son, also named Vincent, who was stillborn. Oh, well, they damned him from his birth. How are you going to name him after the baby that died?
That's something in our family we're not allowed to do.
Yeah, that sounds like a horrible idea. At a young age, with his name and birth date already etched on his dead brother's headstone. Wait, was he born? Oh, exactly 1 year.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. That is creepy weird. Wow.
I don't think the angels were playing when they put that one together.
Yeah, I think God was like, this is not okay. Van Gogh was melancholy. Theo van Gogh, the eldest of 6 living children, Van Gogh had 2 younger brothers, Theo, who worked as an art dealer and supported his older brother's art, and Cor, and then 3 younger sisters, Anna, Elizabeth, and Wilhelmine. Theo van Gogh would later play an important role in his older brother's life as a confidant, supporter, and art dealer. At age 15, Van Gogh's family was struggling financially, and he was forced to leave school and go to work. He got a job at his uncle Cornelius's art dealership, Goupil aan Zee, I guess is how you say that, a firm of art dealers in The Hague. By this time, Van Gogh was fluent in French, German, and English, as well as his native Dutch. In June of 1873, Van Gogh was transferred to the Groupel Gallery in London. There, he fell in love with English culture. He visited art galleries in his spare time and also became a fan of the writings of Charles Dickens and George Eliot. I too love Charles Dickens.
I'm just tripping at how engorged art is in his life. Like,
Already. Yeah. He also fell in love with his landlady's daughter, Eugene Lawyer. When she rejected his marriage proposal, Van Gogh suffered a breakdown. He threw away all his books except for the Bible and devoted his life to God. That sounds familiar. Mm-hmm. He became angry with people at work, telling customers not to buy the worthless art, and was eventually fired. So he went through this like Christian rebellion phase where he started to hate art. That's so interesting.
Christian rebellion.
And, you know, religion is something that a lot of my psych patients and people in general, when they're going through something, tend to cling to. But then it can transfer over into like almost addictive behaviors because you're taking one thing and just replacing it for another.
Or is it more like, sorry, they can put out the, not crazy, but like they can push all their beliefs into this one guy. It's like, I'm doing this because it's in the Bible, but no.
Yeah, and a lot of it absolves them from personal responsibility because then they can focus solely on God, but then they just become kind of obsessive about it. So, and it makes sense to me that he would think that no one should buy worthless art, because if you become so enthralled in religion, then you think that like nothing of pleasure is of value anymore, right? Van Gogh then taught in a Methodist boys' school and also preached to the congregation. Although raised in a religious family, it wasn't until this time that he seriously began to consider devoting his life to the church. Hoping to become a minister, he prepared to take the entrance exam to the School of Theology in Amsterdam. After a year of studying diligently, he refused to take the Latin exams, calling Latin a dead language of poor people, and was subsequently denied entrance. He sounds very opinionated.
Right. Me, myself, as a poor man, would never speak Latin.
Latin, right? Which is like one of the hardest languages to learn. The same thing happened at the Church of Belgium. In the winter of 1878, Van Gogh volunteered to move to an impoverished coal mine in the south of Belgium, a place where preachers were usually sent as punishment. He preached and ministered to the sick, and also drew pictures of the miners and their families, who called him Christ of the coal mines. The evangelical committees were not as pleased. They disagreed with Van Gogh's lifestyle, which had begun to take on a tone of martyrdom. They refused to renew Van Gogh's contract, and he was forced to find another occupation. In the fall of 1880, Van Gogh decided to move to Brussels and become an artist, though he had no formal art training. His brother Theo offered to support Van Gogh financially. Well, that was awful nice. Mm-hmm. He began taking lessons on his own, studying books like Travaux des Champs by Jean-François Millet and Cours de Dessin by Charles Gogh. I'm going to assume I did really fucking well at pronouncing those.
Is it Gogh or baguette?
No, there's no T. Van Gogh's art helped him stay emotionally balanced. Aw, the first discovery of art therapy. In 1885, he began work on what is considered to be his first masterpiece, Potato Eaters.
Ooh,
we'll have to look that one up.
Right.
Theo, who by this time living in Paris, believed the painting would not be well received in the French capital, where Impressionism had become the trend. Nevertheless, Van Gogh decided to move to Paris and showed up at Theo's house uninvited. In March of 1886, Theo welcomed his brother into his small apartment. In Paris, Van Gogh first saw Impressionist art, and he was inspired by the color and light. He began studying with Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, Camille Pissarro, and others. I just like to add the on there. To save money, he and his friends posed for each other instead of hiring models. Oh, that must be why he had so many self-portraits.
Right.
Van Gogh was passionate, and he argued with other painters about their works, alienating those who became tired of his bickering. What can you argue about in art?
A lot.
I mean, but it's your own interpretation. What are you going to argue with someone else about?
Their interpretation.
Like your execution is not good enough? Your paint strokes are trash?
Yeah.
I mean, wow, you must be really full of yourself to go that far.
They're following a specific style. What was the style called?
Impressionism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was their impression.
I guess, yeah. Van Gogh's love life was nothing short of disastrous. He was attracted to women in trouble, thinking he could help them.
Oh my God, he has a savior complex.
We are a lot alike, me and old Vanny. He was attracted... Okay, I read that part already. When he fell in love with his recently widowed cousin, Kate, she was repulsed and fled to her home in Amsterdam.
Damn,
she ran away from him.
The country.
She was like, I'm out this bitch.
Van Gogh, you're gross.
This weirdo likes me and I gotta go.
He was a ginger, right?
Yeah, he was a ginger. I told you my thing about gingers and lefties. Van Gogh then moved to The Hague and fell in love with Clasina Maria Hornick, an alcoholic prostitute. Oh. She became his companion, mistress, and model.
Is she an art hoe?
She's some sort of hoe. I don't know if it's art. I mean...
She became his model.
When Hornick went back to prostitution, Van Gogh became utterly depressed. She was like, this art shit ain't making no money.
No.
I gotta go. In 1882, his family threatened to cut off his money unless he left Hornick and The Hague. Oh, so they're still paying for him?
Well, they have to. Like, who's gonna be?
He's
Art
a
ain't making money.
hikikomori.
He's a hiki. Oh
He's a
my
hikikomori.
god! But he's out and about.
Man, what it must have been like to just be like, I'm just gonna study art. You pay for everything, parents.
There's still people like that actively.
I know, but it seems like it was like more of a thing back then, because the wealth divide wasn't so large. Van Gogh left in mid-September of that year to travel to Drenthe, a somewhat desolate district in the Netherlands. For the next 6 weeks, he lived a nomadic life, moving throughout the region while drawing and painting the landscape and his people. Now that sounds like something I would do. Mm-hmm. I lived in the woods for 2 months. It was glorious. Tell you guys that story sometime on our Patreon.
I went to a fire in my backyard once.
For some reason, I don't think that's the same, Fifi.
It was also glorious.
Van Gogh became influenced by Japanese art and began studying Eastern philosophy to enhance his art and life. He dreamed of traveling there, but was told by Toulouse-Lautrec that the light in the village of the Arles was just like the light in Japan. In February 1888, Van Gogh boarded a train to the south of France. He moved into a now famous yellow house and spent his money on paint rather than food. That's one way to lose weight. Mm-hmm. Vincent van Gogh completed more than 2,100 works, consisting of 860 oil paintings and more than 1,300 watercolors, drawings, and sketches.
That might be our problem why none of our paintings are famous yet, is because we're doing like 1 and 2 at a time. We need to bust them out.
Bang them out.
Yeah.
Several of his paintings now rank among the most expensive in the world. Irises sold for a record $53.9 million, and his portrait of Dr. Gatchett sold for $82.5 million. A few of Van Gogh's most well-known artworks include Starry Night. Van Gogh painted the Starry Night in the asylum where he was staying in Saint Remy, France in 1889, the year before his death. This morning I saw the countryside from my window, a long time before sunrise, with nothing but the morning star, which looked very big, he wrote to his brother Theo. So I want to do a little aside here. I used to think it was really awesome to, that art sold for such expensive prices. But then I read something recently about how art is literally just a way to launder money. Yes,
it is. It's all a fucking scam, okay? They put these prices on the art so when they do their... Because it's deductible from your taxes, right?
Yeah.
When you own... Yes.
Yeah. I read that banana that they take to the wall was a money laundering scam. Craziness.
The whole art world is just... We put prices on things and give them value out of nowhere.
I know, but I mean...
I'm not saying art isn't valuable.
Yeah.
But $82 million?
Yeah, that's a lot. A combination of imagination, memory, emotion, and observation. The oil painting on canvas depicts an expressive swirling night sky and a sleeping village, with a large flame-like cypress, thought to represent the bridge between life and death, looming in the foreground. The painting is currently housed at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, New York.
Well, let me rephrase. I'm sorry, I'm stuck on art money laundering.
I'm sure you are.
Because it really isn't like, these are classics.
Right.
You can never have another Van Gogh Starry Night.
Right.
He's dead.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is these new modern artists or people out here today who will hook up with their rich friends and be like, I'm holding a gallery. Come help me put a price on this. And I'm like, cool.
Right.
This is going to be written off of my taxes.
And they just pick up a paint bucket and throw it on one piece of paper and then sell it for $3 million.
And I'm not saying that's art. It's not art. That's beautiful, but it's not $3 million.
No, agreed. Van Gogh's Sunflowers. In his Sunflowers, he painted 2 series of sunflowers in Arles, France, 4 between August and September 1888 and 1 in January of 1889. The versions and replicas are debated among art historians. The oil paintings on canvas, which depict wilting yellow sunflowers in a vase, are now displayed at museums in London, Amsterdam, Tokyo, Munich, and Philadelphia. So I like that lineup. London, Amsterdam, Tokyo, Munich. And Philly.
Philadelphia. First of all, Philadelphia is a very beautiful city, I presume. Never been.
Got great cheesesteaks.
Cheesesteak. Oh, in the Steelers? Is that Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh Steelers,
Yeah.
yes. Mm-hmm. Irises. In 1889, after entering an asylum in Saint Remy, France, Van Gogh began painting irises, working from the plants and flowers he found in the asylum's garden. I like irises.
Those are beautiful.
Critics believe the painting was influenced by Japanese woodblock prints. French critic Octave Mirbeau, the painting's first owner and an early supporter of Van Gogh, remarked, "How well he has understood the exquisite nature of flowers." Over the course of 10 years, Van Gogh created more than 43 self-portraits, as both paintings and drawings. "I am looking for a deeper likeness than that obtained by a photographer," he wrote to his sister. But of yourself? That seems really self-absorbed.
Again, it was the cheap option.
I know, but
Budget friendly.
But what is he looking for?
He's probably looking
definitely
to find
seems
himself.
like some mental.
Yeah.
There's some mental stuff going on. People say, and I'm willing to believe it, that it is hard to know yourself, but it is not easy to paint yourself either. The portraits painted by Rembrandt are more than a view of nature. They are more like a revelation, he later wrote to his brother. So maybe he has like this constant internal struggle mentally where he doesn't feel like he knows himself or understands himself or what he wants out of life. So he's obsessively painting himself because he thinks he's going to have this like revelation about himself. I actually really identify with that too, because I seem to do really well knowing other people. But when it comes to figuring out like what I want out of life or who I am, it's a constant battle. Like I'm constantly assessing, reassessing, and I never seem to know the exact. That leads me to talk about the Enneagram, one of my favorite personality tests if you haven't taken it before. It's a series of numbers that reflect like your motivations in life. And then you get something called a tri-type, which is like 3 different numbers from each category. So there's a head, a heart, and a gut category within this theory. And so my head category is a number 5, and type 5s tend to be like very isolative. They are like, they have to research everything. They're never sure of anything. They feel like the only way to be confident in the world is to have knowledge. So like I can spend 8 hours researching something before I can make a decision about it. And a lot of more introverted artist types like Van Gogh or Tesla, they tend to have some of that type 5 personality. So just a cool aside if you want to learn a little bit about some Enneagram. So Van Gogh's self-portraits are now displayed in museums around the world, including in Washington, D.C., Paris, New York, and Amsterdam. Now we get to learn about his ear.
We get to learn about his ear.
His ear. I'm so excited. In December of 1888, Van Gogh was living on coffee, bread, and absinthe in Arles.
Isn't absinthe that
Yeah.
very
Yes.
alcohol? You gotta melt it. It looks like you're making drugs.
Yeah, it's green and it's hallucinogenic. The old kind. If you go to the store and buy it now, it's not the same thing. But he found himself feeling sick and strange. Before long, it became apparent that in addition to suffering from physical illness, his psychological health was declining. Around this time, he is known to have slipped on turpentine and eaten paint. Oh, sipped on turpentine.
What is turpentine?
Turpentine.
Isn't that
Sorry,
thinner?
turpentine is usually how you say it. Yeah, that's like paint thinner. And then eaten paint. Wow.
I mean, he spent all his money on paint supplies.
Well, yeah, and he sounds like he's isolated. It's every time I see a psych patient that goes into isolation, their mental health just declines excessively. His brother Theo was worried, and he offered Paul Gogh money to go watch over Vincent in Arles. Within a month, Van Gogh and Gogh were arguing constantly. And one night, Gogh walked out. It sounds like Van Gogh argues with everyone he's around. Van Gogh followed him, and when Gogh turned around, he saw Van Gogh holding a razor in his hand. Holy shit. So now he's become suicidal, sounds like. But this is about the ear, so let's see. Hours later, Van Gogh went to the local brothel and paid for a prostitute named Rachel. With blood pouring from his hand, he offered her his ear, asking her to keep this object carefully. I wonder if he was struggling with voices at this point.
We will never know.
We will never know. But over the course of my term as a psychiatric nurse, patients have excessively done things to their ears in order to try to get the voices to go away, shoving paper in them, cotton, trying to pour liquids down them, just literally anything. And so it makes sense to me. And then he has this like delusion that his ear is a very special object.
It maybe it is to him, okay? If I lost my ear, I'd be like, please take care of this until you reattach it.
I don't think that he thought this was going to be reattachable.
A piece of a human body is actually a really thought out and loving gift.
It is thought out and very loving. The police found Van Gogh in his room the next morning and admitted him to the Hotel Dieu hospital. Theo arrived on Christmas Day to see Van Gogh. What a fitting story that this was around Christmas time. Who was weak from blood loss and having violent seizures. I'm sure all of that absinthe did not help any of these issues.
Question, he had other siblings. Theo's the only real one.
Yeah, Theo's like, the one who can keep his life together. The doctors assured Theo that his brother would live and would be taken good care of. And on January 7th, 1889, Van Gogh was released from the hospital. He remained, however, alone and depressed. For hope, he turned to painting and nature, but could not find peace and was hospitalized again. He would paint at the Yellow House during the day and return to the hospital at night. Van Gogh decided to move to the Saint Paul de Monceau Asylum in Saint Remy de Provence after the people of Arles signed a petition saying that he was dangerous. Holy cow.
Can you imagine the kind of like shit he would get into for people to be like, can he not be here?
I feel like whatever he had that he started out with, like I did read about his diagnosis. I'm going to talk about that some more in a minute, but I feel like his initial diagnosis must have most definitely flowed into some paranoid schizophrenic type behavior. On May 8th of 1889, he began painting in the hospital gardens. In November 1889, he was invited to exhibit his paintings in Brussels. He sent 6 paintings, including Irises and Starry Night. On January 31st, 1890, Theo and his wife, Johanna, gave birth to a boy and named him Vincent Willem van Gogh, after Theo's brother around this time.
Which one? The dead one or the living one?
I would think it's the living one. Theo sold Van Gogh's The Red Vineyards painting for 400 francs. I don't know how much that is back then, but it sounds like a good amount.
I'm about to say, francs is, that might be a cool 1,000.
Cool 1,000? All right.
I don't know.
Also around the time, Dr. Paul Gatchett, who lives in Auvers, about 20 miles north of Paris, agreed to take Van Gogh as his patient. Oh, so the famous Gatchett painting was his actual doctor. Okay. Van Gogh moved to Auvers and rented a room. On July 27th of 1890, Vincent van Gogh went out to paint in the morning carrying a loaded pistol and shot himself in the chest. Why did he pick the chest?
Stomach.
Well, I mean, they're close to each other. But the bullet did not kill him. He was found bleeding in his room. Van Gogh was distraught about his future because, in May of that year, his brother Theo had visited and spoke to him about needing to be stricter with his finances. Van Gogh took that to mean Theo was no longer interested in selling his art. Van Gogh was taken to a nearby hospital, and his doctor sent for Theo, who arrived to find his brother sitting up in bed and smoking a pipe. After getting shot in the chest, he's smoking. They spent the next couple of days talking to... hold on. I gotta say something, though. When I am in my most creative, depressed state, I just don't care. So I can understand that. I mean,
let me smoke my pipe.
I'm just I'm gonna die. YOLO. This is fine. Which is not a healthy coping mechanism, by the way, for you listeners. On July 29th, 1890, Vincent van Gogh died in the arms of his brother Theo. He was only 37 years old. Wow. He looks so old in his self-portraits. That absinthe really affected his life.
Oh, not the turpentine and the paint?
Something, but he looks so old in his self-portraits. I cannot believe he was only 37.
He painted them. Who was to say that's what he actually looked like? Maybe that was his depiction of himself.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Theo, who was suffering from syphilis and weakened by his brother's death, died 6 months after his brother in a Dutch asylum. He was buried in Utrecht, but in 1914, Theo's wife Johanna, who was a dedicated supporter of Van Gogh's works, had Theo's body reburied in the Avers Cemetery next to Vincent. Aww. Here's his legacy. Theo's wife Johanna then collected as many of Van Gogh's paintings as she could, but discovered that many had been destroyed or lost, as Van Gogh's own mother had thrown away crates full of his art. Holy cow.
Right.
But I mean, he created 2,100 works. Who can store all of that?
I know, but like money.
And he wasn't famous though at the time. So
but still, if I had
it's like me keeping every scribble Juju does at school. Jesus Christ.
If her scribbles look this nice.
No. On March 17th of 1901, 71 of Van Gogh's paintings were displayed at a show in Paris, and his fame grew enormously. His mother lived long enough to see her son hailed as an artistic genius. Today, where was his mom this whole time, though? At
home, being sad.
Theo was taking care of him his whole life. His mom don't have nothing to do with it. No. But then all of a sudden...
But she was an artist as well.
That's true. She was an artist. I forgot. Vincent van Gogh is considered one of the greatest artists in human history. In 1973, the Van Gogh Museum opened its doors in Amsterdam to make the works of Vincent van Gogh accessible to the public. The museum houses more than 200 Van Gogh paintings, 500 drawings, and 750 written documents, including letters to Vincent's brother Theo. It features self-portraits, the potato eaters, the bedroom, and sunflowers. In September 2013, the museum discovered and unveiled a Van Gogh painting of a landscape entitled Sunset at Montmajour. Before coming under the possession of the Van Gogh Museum, a Norwegian industrialist owned the painting and stored it away in his attic, having thought that it wasn't authentic. The painting is believed to have been created by Van Gogh in 1888, around the same time that his artwork Sunflowers was made, just 2 years before his death. So where did they say? Okay, this is in Amsterdam, the Van Gogh Museum.
Seems like we got to go to Amsterdam.
That's another road trip.
Not just for the other stuff in Amsterdam.
Exactly. All right. I'm going to tell you about his mental health, which actually comes from the Van Gogh Museum.nl.
All right.
All right. So Vincent cut off his left ear on 23rd of December, 1888. It was the first of several serious breakdowns that plagued him until his tragic suicide a year and a half later. We don't know precisely what his illness was, but it had a huge impact on him. This is something he wrote to Theo. I well knew that one could break one's arms and legs before, and that then afterward that could get better. But I didn't know that one could break one's brain, and that afterwards that got better too. Oh, so that sounds like he has hope at some point that he's going to get better.
Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't want to die, you know?
Are you going to tell us about some theories?
I do have some...
You have some theories.
Conspiracy theories.
I'm sure the listeners are going to love that. Vincent arrived in Arles at the beginning of 1888. He painted intensively in and around the town, inspired by the southern French landscape. As he worked, he dreamed of an artist's community in his yellow house. When the painter Paul Gagnon arrived in October, it seemed his dream would finally be fulfilled. As you learned from my telegram, Gagnon arrived in good health. He even gave me the impression of being in better shape than me. That's another excerpt from a letter he wrote his brother. The artists initially worked together happily, but their relationship soon deteriorated. Their discussion about art sometimes grew heated. Vincent believed it was important to work from reality, while Gagnon preferred to paint from his imagination. Ah. All right. Let's pretend we're having this argument.
Okay. You be Vincent.
No, I don't want to argue that one. You be Vincent.
I gotta be the bad guy?
You gotta be the one who believes in painting from reality.
All right, you guys.
So what's the importance of painting from reality?
How can we depict life as we know it if we're not painting what we see? We do not fill in the blanks with things we believe to be there, but we paint and interpret the way we see things and paint that into reality.
But then are you really that creative? Are you really a creative artist at that point? Or are you just copying what you see around the world, which is not very fun or interesting? That really doesn't lend much to your own intelligence of art.
But the thing is, you're not copying in a way. You copy in your style as an artist. You copy the world and the reality you see. Doesn't mean you pull shit from nowhere.
So then how does that actually make it historically important or accurate if you're not copying it exactly as you see it?
How does it make it historically important or accurate? Because all of us as artists, if we're painting the world as we see it, reality as we interpret it, not adding in extra bullshit. I imagine him to be a cusser.
He's a cusser?
Van Gogh, the cusser.
He's very much an arguer.
But if we paint reality the way we see it, then future generations see the world the way we see it.
So that seems to me like you think that you want future generations just to see things the way you see it. That sounds so self-absorbed. My art, on the other hand, because it's creative, is thought-provoking. And what better way for people to have better lives and realizations in life than to provoke thought from their minds?
Your thoughts are trash.
Your thoughts are trash. I won.
How do you win?
The artists initially worked together happily. But their relationship soon deteriorated, just like ours did.
I'm not done with this argument.
Oh, we're done. Just before Christmas, they had a furious row, following which a distraught Vincent then cut off his left ear. So this is when he ends up in the hospital, and he's treated by Dr. Felix Ray, the assistant physician. Ray believed that Van Gogh was suffering from a form of epilepsy, brought on in part by too much coffee and alcohol. And too little food.
Is that him? That's Dr. Felix?
That's the picture of him, it looks like.
Got that nice pointy goatee.
I know he got that pointy beard. Hey.
You look like a pirate doctor.
Mm-hmm. So I like how they bring up that his epilepsy was brought on by too much coffee and alcohol and too little food. Because that's very possible that he was living in such a constant state of dehydration that it caused him to develop some nervous system issues. Oh, there's a really awesome image here about Dr. Felix. It's a note from when he'd cut off his ear and how it was cut off on the Van Gogh Museum website, if you'd like to check that out. This is a note from Felix Ray to Theo on December 30th of 1888. When I tried to get him to talk about the motive that drove him to cut off his ear, he replied that it was a purely personal matter.
Oh my gosh.
That is something I would say.
Conspiracy about that as well.
You have a conspiracy?
I have so many conspiracies.
All right. I'm almost done. Then you can tell us your conspiracies. Vincent gradually came to his senses in the hospital, and after 2 weeks, he was allowed to return home. New breakdowns swiftly followed, however, and he was readmitted. During these attacks, Vincent was totally confused and did not know what he was doing or saying. Between episodes, he did his best to pick up the threads of his life. So he's extremely confused. Sounds like he's done a lot of damage to his brain, one way or the other. Theo was deeply concerned about his brother's situation. He traveled to Arles the moment he heard from Gogh that Vincent had wounded himself. He had to return to Paris after one day at the hospital, but Dr. Ray, the postman Joseph Rouland, and the Protestant minister Frederick Salas kept him informed of Vincent's recovery. And this is from Theo to Joe from Paris on December 24th. Of 1888. I received sad news today. Vincent is gravely ill. I don't know what's wrong, but I shall have to go there as my presence is required. Vincent's life in Arles did not get any easier when his neighbors organized a petition against him. They were afraid of the painter and wanted him out of the yellow house. Vincent was devastated. I have never done anyone harm at any rate, and I am not a danger to anyone, he told Reverend Salas. It sounds like he's not. I mean, it sounds like they're just scared of him because of his mental disorder. But there's also a picture of the petition here on the Van Gogh Museum. You know what? I might just post this link. That way you guys can just follow it. So he spent a year in the asylum, and a month later, he had himself voluntarily admitted. He had himself voluntarily admitted a month later, and then he spent a year in there. And this is to Theo from Arles in April 21st of 1889. It will, I hope, suffice to say that I feel decidedly incapable of starting to take a new studio again and living there alone. Here in Arles or elsewhere, for the moment, not possible. So that's basically saying, I don't think I can handle living by myself anymore. Then here's another letter to Theo from St. Remy in August 22nd of 1889. This new crisis, my dear brother, came upon me in the fields, and when I was in the middle of painting on a windy day. But that's how it happens, isn't it? You know, people say that we compensate for our mental disorders and we just walking around looking normal. And then one day in the middle of a field, you're painting and boom, there you are, admitted. You got to really do a lot of self-checking, you know, self-analysis. All right. I see your smile. I'm going to let you get on with these theories because I know you are so freaking stoked to tell me. I'm probably going to be extremely critical because I'm extremely critical of conspiracies.
These are just some conspiracy theories that I had heard a long time ago about the suicide of
She's doing the fingers right now. Suicide.
and the ear chopping.
I don't see how you could... Okay, I have to say my nurse thing here. I don't see how you can denote that, like... He spent time in asylums. The guy had mental issues.
The guy had mental issues. I do not deny
my
that.
My schizophrenic patients would cut their ears off. I'm telling you.
I do not deny that either, but I also think there's more to the story.
There's not more to the story, but go ahead.
All right. This article is coming from the Geographical Cure, and I'm reading some excerpts from it because I'm not going to read y'all the whole thing. We don't got that kind of time. First things first, let's talk about this ear. All right. In fact, Van Gogh's ear was long healed by the time he moved to Uva-sur-Oise, France. I can't pronounce the French. Mm-hmm. In fact, the missing lobe might have not been Van Gogh's handiwork. A book by two German historians begs to differ. They think what really happened in 1888 is that Van Gogh's artist friend, Paul Gauguin, lopped off his earlobe while they were fencing in southern France. Which goes with our theory of them being argumentative.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. It's the same thing as having a duel. Instead of shooting each other, they fence. He chopped off his earlobe because painting from the creative realness or something, whatever Gauguin's bullshit was.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this story's bullshit. Gauguin believed in painting from creativity. Anyway.
Yeah, painting from creativity. He creatively chopped off Van Gogh's ear.
Right. Gauguin, who had no mental health history.
They were fencing. It was a fencing accident because they were arguing.
And no report of fencing.
I'm not done.
And the brother sent him to watch his crazy brother.
Yes. And the crazy brother drove him crazy.
Who then took his ear after someone else cut it off and carried it to a prostitute.
Not done.
Yeah, okay.
The self-mutilation story was concocted between the two to avoid Gauguin's embarrassment and arrest. In any event, Van Gogh left Arles for Uva-sur-Oise, whatever, in May 1890.
Okay, wait. Are you done with that one?
I'm done. That is the...
All right, that's the finality?
No. I haven't gotten to his death yet.
Oh, no, but we're talking about the ear cutting.
Yes.
Okay, so he used it as a cover story. Mm-hmm. Please explain why he took it to a prostitute and gave it to her as a gift. And told her to take care of this very important item.
When you're a liar, like Van Gogh was obviously, you make it grandiose, okay? You don't just say, oh, I cut my own ear off. He's like, I gotta do some crazy shit to go along with this. I'm already crazy. So they're going to believe it.
Or he just did it because he's already crazy, which is the most logical explanation.
Nah.
I won this one again. Go ahead.
This ear one, I've never heard it until I read this article. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
The one about his death, though, had a couple of points why they don't believe Van Gogh committed suicide.
Well, I mean, technically he didn't die the day of anyway. He died later on, a few days later or whatever.
They said first, there was no telltale signs that Van Gogh was suicidal. I know what you're going to say. But let me tell you about our friend Vincent.
Which is...
He produced nearly 800 letters in his lifetime, mostly to his brother Theo. Mm-hmm. His last letters didn't demonstrate any extreme anxiety. To the contrary, Vincent seemed happy and productive in picturesque avars. If a bit lonely, he was always lonely, though. I know, that sounds like suicidal.
Sounds like classic suicidal behavior.
Right.
Continue.
There was no suicide note either. In fact, most people don't leave suicide notes.
Not people that really want to kill themselves.
Facts.
He's left enough notes. Everyone knows he's crazy. He's like, I don't need to tell you guys again. If you see that I'm dead, you know
Never
why.
happened. The second thing, the gun was never found. Vincent didn't own a gun and didn't have it with him when he returned to Reveau Inn. No one found it in the wheat field. No one found his artist materials, his easel, and paintbrushes at the scene of the alleged suicide either. People shooting themselves don't usually bury their stuff first.
So they think he buried it? Did they find it buried?
They didn't find any of it.
So he shot himself and then put all of his stuff away? Well, who knows if he even recounts. Okay, listen. He's experiencing psychosis. Mm-hmm. He's drinking absinthe and alcohol. Well, absinthe is alcohol, but with hallucinogenic properties. He's not eating. Like, he could be totally fucking delusional. Like, he may not have even realized he wasn't actually painting. Like, that's literally how psychosis works. I can have a patient come up to me and tell me any kind of number of delusion is happening. Which, you know what? Actually, if he was experiencing delusions to that degree, but he was aware enough to hate them or hate it about himself, I could see why he would be so passionate about creating art from his mind. Because creating what he sees in front of him is grounding him to reality. Mm-hmm. Also, the fact that he says that cutting his ear off was a personal matter, a lot of people who experience psychosis and voices won't want to admit it, obviously, because it's, an embarrassing thing to say. But if they're aware enough that they're not, they're just right on the edge of enough psychosis, but not so much so that they're like no longer living in the world, then it would be a very personal matter to him that the voices that he doesn't want to tell people about, and then he cuts his ear off to try to get them to stop. So, I think I'm not buying this theory either.
I think he cut his own ear off. Third, Van Gogh's belly wound wasn't consistent with suicide. Shooting oneself in the stomach guarantees a long and painful death, as the case was with Van Gogh. After shooting himself, he staggered a mile back to his home in Reveau Inn, after then firing another shot. No.
Yeah, sounds like he was drunk, under the influence, psychotic, delusional, shot himself, walked a mile. All of this is totally plausible when you look at it from a psychiatric perspective.
Now let's talk about who they thought shot Van Gogh in this article.
Okay.
If Vincent didn't shoot himself, who did? In Arvaz, there was a notorious 16-year-old bully named René Secretan.
16?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The son of a powerful Arvaz businessman, he wore cowboy gear, sported a revolver, and hung out with a pack of troublemaker miscreants. A friendless Van Gogh was an easy target for them. Van Gogh was an eccentric introvert. His obsessive, quarrelsome nature often rubbed people the wrong way. His letters revealed that alternatively viewed himself as a Masonic figure or utter failure. He drank, smelled bad, had a mangled ear, and painted outside. Renee pretended to befriend Van Gogh in private, but mocked him in public. So the theory is, while they were fucking with Van Gogh, as they usually do, because he's the crazy man in town,
right,
Renee accidentally shot him.
And Van Gogh covered it up?
Yeah.
Because he thought he was his friend.
Yeah.
Okay, that one I might buy. I might buy that.
That's the only reason I was like, I remember hearing something. That's the only believable part was like...
And Van Gogh's like, I want to die anyway, so who cares?
Right.
Yeah. That's
Which is
really
like
sad.
Pretty chill, smoking. He's like, yeah, a child shot me. No one's going to say that. I shot myself.
I love reading about these artists. It's really sad that they died. Shout out to all my art friends who I'm displaying their art for this month. If you feel like you're struggling with some Van Gogh symptoms, please work to see your therapist and stay alive because we need your art.
Please do not cut off any body parts.
Yeah.
You can pull teeth, but don't cut anything off.
I do know some artists who put teeth on necklaces.
And I mean, like the Great Gatsby, he had the cufflinks made of molars.
Yeah. Anyway, please reach out so that you don't end up an artist on our show. Have a good night, guys.
Bye, guys.